Everyone. So according to the Jazz Note, NBA sources tell the Jazz Note that the Los Angeles Lakers have reached out to the Utah Jazz to re-engage on trade talks surrounding Russell Westbrook, talks in preliminary stages. Now, this is something that was reported a little while back that the Lakers and the Jazz may re-engage in trade talks. So this is a good news. This is a good sign, right? They also added, NBA sources also pushed back on the idea that Jordan Clarkson is unavailable. There were some reports, some murmurs going around that the Utah Jazz value Jordan Clarkson a lot and that they actually want to keep him, and he may be one of the few players that are untouchable on this team, but it looks like that may not be the case. The Jazz value Clarkson, but sources say that Ryan will let Danny trade anyone. The owner, Danny will trade any vets, more picks, and short-term contracts. We do know that based on the report of the actual trade that was discussed, the Utah Jazz were willing to include a 2023 pick. Now, it wasn't very likely the Utah Jazz's pick. It was very likely the Minnesota Timberwolves pick. So they'd be willing to include some picks and also some short-term contracts, which the Lakers could get some really good ones. There are a couple players that are on some short-term deals. I will dive into that in a minute, as well as any of the vets, Mike Conley, stuff like that. Now, there are players that are probably on the trading block for sure, and then some that may be a little difficult. But nonetheless, look, the Utah Jazz are now 5-2, and that wasn't the intention, right? Danny Ainge basically shot himself in the foot. He had deals with the Knicks that were better than the Cavs deal. They had deals with the Lakers and the Suns that were better with Bojan Bogdanovic that they ended up not going with. And now look, now they're in trouble. And now the Utah Jazz are starting to panic because they didn't plan on being a play-in team, being on the upper standings, be middle of the pack. They wanted to rebuild, restart fresh, find some nice young talent. And yeah, of course, you want to compete to a certain extent, but they didn't want to compete to the level of they're beating good teams. They've beat Denver, Utah, and Memphis now in their pursuit of wins. So they're beating quality teams. This Utah Jazz team is very good, and this is something that we even talked about here on this channel. Once all the smoke sort of settled, I was like, dude, the Utah Jazz could probably win some games. They're probably good enough to maybe even squeak into the playoffs. And they have been. They have been fantastic. And so now it makes sense the Utah Jazz are starting to panic a little bit. This wasn't our intentions. We weren't planning on being a team that was competing and literally winning games night in and night out. They have guys like Victor Wembanyama in this draft that they want to tank for and rebuild. So obviously they want to unload some of those guys that they could win. But how would it be worth it? Because, right, Bojan Bogdanovic, that was the prize. That was the player that we wanted. The Lakers wanted Jared Vanderbilt, but Utah was a little reluctant to move him. They wanted to keep him. And now they have all these guys that are playing really good basketball for the Jazz. And now the Jazz are going to have to unload some of those better quality guys, right? Now you're going to be talking Malik Beasley. Maybe you could even work out a Lauri Markkanen. Right? What if the Lakers could get Lauri Markkanen? Now, he's not necessarily a short term. He's more of a longer term. He is contract through 2025. But still, he's a guy that they may be willing to unload, especially if he's a guy that's not really in their future plans if they're rebuilding, right? This might be a guy that is obtainable because there's just no way the Lakers are going to give up both first-round picks for Mike Conley, Jordan Clarkson, and Rudy Gay. They weren't willing to give up both first-round picks for Bojan Bogdanovic, Mike Conley, and Jordan Clarkson. I don't think that they're going to do it for that. And even talks with Malik Beasley in the deal, they weren't willing to give up both firsts. So unless you're going to give them some okay, these are worth first-round picks, I just don't see them making a deal. And then it's just going to be the same discussion all over again. So the Utah Jazz have to know that the Lakers are going to want, the Jared Vanderbilts, the Malik Beasleys, the Lauri Markkanens. Now, I don't necessarily think that they'll be able to get all of them. I think the Lakers will have to take on a Mike Conley, which I'm fine with. I think Mike Conley would be great. I've said that from day one. I think he's a guy, 40% three-point shooter. He's a guy that can run the point guard duties. He can play off the ball, on the ball. He could come off the bench. He could start. Whatever you need. I wouldn't mind Mike Conley at all. A savvy vet that's not going to do too much, that takes care of the ball, that can play defense, could be a real key component to this team. I wouldn't mind somebody like that. But what else is a part of that, right? And how would this compare to like the Spurs deal or the Pacers deal or the Hornets deal? It's got to be something that's worth it, right? And I think if you could get let's say you could get Lauri Markkanen, Malik Beasley, and Mike Conley, all right? I actually like that. That might be the best deal the Lakers could get, because now you get a big man that could do multiple things for you, that can give you a real scoring punch. I mean, he's averaging what, 24, 25 a game this season. So you get a guy that can spread the floor. He can play the 4, he can play the 5. You get a guy in Malik Beasley, 3 and D, knock down the 3 ball, play some solid defense. Mike Conley, same thing, 3 and D guy. So now you get 3 shooters. You get guys that can play. You get more big men. Anthony Davis, is going to miss some games. Lauri Markkanen is a guy that could play in replace of Anthony Davis. He's a guy that could play alongside Anthony Davis. He's a jack of all trades for the Lakers, and I think that he would be a really solid acquisition. Now, also, maybe you could get, like I said, a Malik Beasley. If you can't get Lauri Markkanen, I think the conversation's got to at least start with Malik Beasley, likely Mike Conley, because, Utah's going to want them to take on, which I don't mind. So say you're taking on Mike Conley, Malik Beasley, and then what's that third? I don't think Rudy Gay is that third unless you're not giving up any picks. Like if you're taking on Mike Conley, Rudy Gay, and Malik Beasley for Russell Westbrook, and you're not giving up any picks, like any of the main first, the 27 and 29 pick, sure, I wouldn't mind that, right? Because you're getting a solid big, solid 3 and D big guy in Rudy Gay. Although he's not going to give you a ton of production, I think he would give you, just some depth and some stability, right? Beasley, I think, could really help a lot. He's on a short-term deal expiring, so that's somebody. Mike Conley, he could help a lot. But I don't, if you have to give up both first, I think in that case, if you're taking on Beasley, Conley, and Gay, I would rather you do the Pacers deal in that case. And I'm not very big on the Pacers deal, but I just don't think it's worth it for the Lakers. Now, if you could get, like I said, Beasley, Markkanen, and Conley, yeah, okay, now we're talking. Now you're getting closer to okay, I'm willing to give up the firsts. I'm willing to give up a first, if not both, in that kind of deal, because especially if you could get Markkanen. I think the Lakers should do whatever they can to get Lauri Markkanen, if that's even a conversation starter. But based on the Jazz Notes report, that they can trade anybody that Danny Ainge has full permission to trade anybody that is on the roster. And so let's try to explore it, right? Let's try to see if we can get some of these guys that the Lakers could really use, right? Mike Conley and Rudy Gay, as great as I think that they could be for the Lakers, I just don't think that they're worth picks. I don't think that these are two guys that are really highly valuable and highly sought after, right? Who's giving you first round picks for Mike Conley and Rudy Gay? You're not. I'm not really big on Jordan Clarkson. I know some people are. I know some people would like Jordan Clarkson in the deal, but I'm really not into that. Like I said, Lauri Markkanen, give me Lauri Markkanen. 25 years old, 6'11", play power forward. He can play small forward. He could play center in certain spots because he's got the length to do so. We've seen him play small forward for many teams. And I think he's a guy that could come in and really give you some solid scoring bursts. I think he's a guy that, again, he could slot next to Anthony Davis, can play in place of Anthony Davis. You got him locked up for several years, right? Again, you got him locked up through 2025. So, you can justify giving up the picks, right? And he's on a reasonable deal, right? He signed a 4-year, $67 million deal. So you could get, like I said, you could get Lauri Markkanen, he's making $16.5 million per year, just under $17 million. So there's that. Mike Conley's making $22 million. So there's $39 million. You could probably get 4 players in the deal if you wanted to. I mean, if you really think about it, you could get Lauri Markkanen, because let's do this in real time, right? $17 million, let's call it, right? Mike Conley, $22 million. There's $39 million, right? And then Beasley's making, 15 million, right? Something along those lines. So let's say you got the 15 million plus Conley's, 22 million. There's 37 million plus the 17 million. There's, 44, 54 million, which the Lakers could take on roughly like 55, 56 million. So that works right there. There you go. So what if we could get a Conley, Beasley, and Lauri Markkanen? In that case, I think I would be willing to give up those picks because you got youth, you got guys that you can keep around for the long term, you got guys that can immediately come in and be impact starters. That might be the best deal that the Lakers could get, right? Lauri Markkanen doesn't have like a huge major injury history. If that could be a starting point, I'm with that. Let's make that a starting point, right? I mean, look, I'm all for Vanderbilt. My dream scenario would be Vanderbilt, Beasley, and Lauri Markkanen, right? I would give up both first-round picks immediately for those three because you basically solve everything. You get shooting, you get floor spacing, you get bigs, you get wing depth, you get a little bit of everything. And the Lakers need several guys. They don't need just one or two guys. They need several guys. So, I mean, imagine a starting five of Dennis Schroeder, Malik Beasley, LeBron James, Lauri Markkanen and Anthony Davis. That's a really good starting five. And you get these three for Russell Westbrook. The money matches up, right? So you could do that. You could even throw in a Rudy Gay because, Vanderbilt, he's not making that much. So throw in a Rudy Gay, or something like that, something along those lines. Although I think you got to take Mike Conley. I'm pretty confident that the Jazz are going to want to unload Mike Conley, right? Because they're going to want to unload the vets before they unload anyone else. So say, realistically, I mean, I think unless it's Malik Beasley, Lauri Markkanen, and Mike Conley, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. If you could get Vanderbilt and not get Lauri Markkanen, then I would do one first. If you could get Beasley, Vanderbilt, and Conley, I would do one first-round pick. But if you get Lauri Markkanen, Beasley, and Conley, I would probably give up both first for that. Because I think that that's fair. And not just that, but Lauri Markkanen is a valuable trade chip that you could use. So is Malik Beasley. And then Mike Conley's contract's only partially guaranteed the following year at $14.5 million. So all three of those guys would be very movable. Very movable. So say, for whatever reason, right? Say, the Nets implode and they want to trade Kyrie Irving, right? And you're the Lakers. Yeah, you don't have first. You don't have any more firsts, but you got Beasley and Lauri Markkanen that you could use to trade. Maybe you could trade if you wanted to Lauri Markkanen for Kyrie Irving and maybe keep Beasley. Now you got Conley, Kyle Lowry, Malik Beasley, LeBron James, Anthony Davis. You still have Walker. You still have Reeves. You still have, Nunn. You're a good deep team. Because again, the Lakers need 3 or 4 guys. They do. They need several guys. And these 3 guys that you see on the screen are balling out right now for the Jazz. So if they could take that and replicate that for the Lakers, I think we win some games. I do. I really do. I think we win some games. These 3 guys are helping the Lakers or are helping the Jazz to a 5-2 record. Can they do the same thing for the Lakers with LeBron James and Anthony Davis? I think so. And I think Lauri Markkanen gives you that Anthony Davis insurance. And a lot of people want to see Anthony Davis traded. If you get Lauri Markkanen, you can kind of justify it a little better. Lauri Markkanen isn't Anthony Davis, but if Anthony Davis can't stay healthy, I personally don't think that they should trade Anthony Davis. I just don't think that's the value there right now. But, at some point, they probably are going to look at it. If not this season, maybe next season. Because then after next season, now LeBron James can leave. Anthony Davis can leave, all that stuff. So do the Lakers go, we got Lauri Markkanen. We got our Anthony Davis replacement. He's 24 years old, 25 years old. We got our guy that could be, our power forward of the future. And now let's go get, let's trade Anthony Davis and maybe go get maybe you could trade him to the Bulls and go get a Zach LaVine. Now you got Zach LaVine and Lauri Markkanen for your future. That's not a terrible idea. That's not a terrible deal. You'd have to get more than Zach LaVine very likely. But, for a starting point, that's not a terrible starting point. It's just, I don't know. it depends on what the Lakers could get and what the Utah Jazz are willing to give up. We know the Utah Jazz want both firsts, and we know that the Utah Jazz want a tank, right? Because if they didn't want a tank, why would they be talking to the Lakers about Russell Westbrook? They're winning games, right? Like, why would there even be a conversation if the Utah Jazz didn't want a tank, right? Why? You're winning games. You're third in the West right now, right? Like, they have the most wins in the West right now. It's very likely after tomorrow they could be first in the West. So if the goal is to win, why are you trying to make a trade with the Lakers? It's because that's not the goal. So the Lakers, in this case, I think have a little bit of leverage. Because it's like, look, you shot us in the foot last time, and you ended up shooting a bigger hole in your foot. And now look, now you're winning games, and that wasn't your intentions. So we want some of those guys that are helping you win games. We don't want your vets that mean nothing to us, that aren't going to help us win and not going to move the needle, especially if you want some first. You want us to take on Rudy Gay and Mike Conley? Okay, then we're not giving any first. We'll take that, and we'll give you like a pick swap or a couple seconds or something. But if you want some first, we need some Lauri Markkens, we need some Vanderbilts, we need some Beasleys, things like that. I don't know, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. As always, this is a discussion, so I want to hear from you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. What would you think? What would you want? Would you want any of these guys? Would you not? How would you feel? Would you love the Lakers to pull off a deal and get like a Lauri Markkinen, Beasley, and like a Mike Conley? Because like I said, if we're being honest here, the Lakers are probably going to have to take on Mike Conley, which, again, I'm not against. 40% three-point shooter, a guy that can play, your starting point guard duties. You know what you're going to get from him, a solid veteran, play both sides of the ball. I'm all for that. Not against that at all. He's had some great health over the last year or so. He played 71 games last season. So, if he can continue to stay on the court, I'm all for it. He's not the classic grit and grind Mike Conley, but still, he's good enough. He's good enough. He's better than all the point guards we have right now. Not named Russell Westbrook, but he's a better decision maker and just taking care of the ball than Russell Westbrook. So I wouldn't mind Mike Conley at all. We need a Lauri Markkinen, and we need Beasley. Give me Lauri Markkinen, Beasley, and Mike Conley, and we could do a deal. I think that's perfect. You get your 3-and-D wing, get your 3-and-D, power forward, small forward, center. You get your your 3-and-D point guard that can also play shooting guard if you need him to. I think it's a win-win. But anyway, again, let me know, good, bad, ugly, somewhere in between. Let me know down in the comment section below.